What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 15 of Hard Hat Highlights, where we talk about some of the things that happened during our work week. And of course, Jason has scoured the internet for some interesting headlines and topics that we get to add our opinion on. Now, this episode is hosted on our YouTube channel called Glass Guy. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd love for you to subscribe, comment, like, share. But without further ado, Jason Ryback, how the hell are you?
I am doing absolutely wonderful.
Excellent.
I'm alive, I'm here, and I'm happy.
That's great. If you're doing any better, it'd be a sin.
I don't want to use that one.
Okay. Good to be back to work, though.
It is.
And back in the routine, especially from the hurricane.
It is. And before we get into the routine, I think there's something that I need to bring up. I think tomorrow is a very special day for you. So I want to wish you a happy birthday. Another year older.
Thank you.
And getting that much closer to taking those blood pressure pills and washing them down with Metamucil.
If I knew I was going to make it to 47, I would have treated my body a lot better on early off.
I feel better because at least for the next month, we're the same age.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Good point. Getting that much closer to getting that senior citizen discount.
That's right.
Holy shit.
Well, man, this week started off a bit humbling.
Oof. I was down in the dumps.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, coming back, shutting down basically for a week due to the hurricanes is crippling enough for me because I don't feel like I'm being productive or getting anything done. I'm an individual that thrives on purpose. And sitting at home with no power and lights, I don't feel like I have any purpose.
Yeah.
And so I was anxious to get back to work. And then we get back to work, and one of the larger deals that we were able to be procured for in the last month sent us an email saying that they would like to cancel the order, which really sent me into a tailspin. And if anybody that knows me, and maybe you're like this out there, you know, my highs are really high and my lows tend to be really low. Luckily, I'm partnered with somebody who is kind of more even keel and can kind of talk me off of the ledge sometimes.
Yeah, there was when that happened, it was a little bit of a shock, but also it's understandable. It was a large condo. There's a condo association there. And once people start chirping, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then they started auditing what they were doing with this whole project. We were just a small part of this scope, and they decided to cut several things. And unfortunately, we ended up on the cutting room floor. But as always, I remember your brother a long time ago. He said something along the lines of, when one door opens... Oh, wait, no, he fucked that up. It was when one door closes, another opens.
Right.
And I reminded you of that because it seems to happen all the time. Like, there's no point in getting down in the dumps because there's a balance. There's always a balance. And so what happened?
So you did say that, and of course I put it in like, oh yeah, cool. That's not going to take the shop. It wasn't probably 3 to 4 hours, same day, 3 to 4 hours later, a new opportunity came across, emailed to me from a repeat customer with a project that is like ready to go like now. And I just finished putting numbers together. This project is going to be about 3 times the size of that one, which immediately made me forget what just happened earlier in the week. So first of all, thank you for helping talk me off the ledge. Sometimes I need that. I think
You're
that's
welcome. I'll bill your insurance company.
Hey, listen, a rising tide raises all boats, and you're really good at keeping everybody even keel, so I appreciate that. But, often real estate agents on social media, even us, we have a tendency to always show our wins just because it's easy and everybody. But I think it's important to also share some of these difficulties that we go through because it could be relatable to somebody else. And it's not the end of the world. Even though it might feel like it in the moment, it's not the end of the world. So when one shower door closes, another one opens.
There you go.
There you go.
You had a video that went off a little bit this week.
Yes.
It kind of reminds me of the adage we talk about it all the time. If it bleeds, it leads.
And that's typically because the news stations, they've realized that if it's killing or something, audacious like that, blood, it garners more attention.
Right.
And this is a perfect example of that. It's a post. It was an Instagram reel. I put it across every platform where it's kind of a green screen. It shows me, but in the background, it shows a video of two guys installing a piece of glass. It appears to be in like a third world country, I'm guessing. But
Detroit?
There was cardboard underneath it. They weren't wearing any protective gear. The glass broke, and it looks like it hit a main artery in this guy's arm, and he started bleeding like a sieve. So I posted that about a month ago. Less than a week ago, this thing just starts going off. My phone's going off. Blocks of 100. It's over 250,000 views now. The shares are somewhere around 15,000 shares. But it just reminded me that if you're posting on social media regularly, it's easy to get down because you're not getting the viewership that you need. And I just want to remind you, this video was posted over a month ago.
Yeah.
And somewhere around 2,000, 3,000 views on it. And then literally it seemed like overnight, 100,000, then 200,000. So again, people shouldn't be posting with the expectations of it going viral. I know a lot of people say, oh my God, this video is going to go viral. You should not be posting for that reason. If you can get in the habit of just posting out of consistency, if it's meant to go viral, it will.
Some of the finest wines take the longest to age.
You're right, BB. What else? So anyway, keep posting, and we're going to keep posting. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so.
This is our first show in 2 weeks. We actually missed last week. No power. Power's been weird, hasn't it?
Extremely weird.
It's like normally when we have these storms, you'll lose power. You almost always lose power. So the first part of this is that we didn't lose power through the whole storm.
You didn't lose power.
Okay. I didn't lose power. But let's go back. So normally you lose power maybe a couple days, sometimes it's a couple weeks. But when you get the power back, you've got power. Now, for you, I know you lost power at night. I think it came back on the next day.
2 days later.
Okay.
And then it went out again.
Yeah. And so here in the studio, we had power pretty much the whole time. And then we showed up the next day and there's no power. And even at home and every building I've been in, there's been a lot of weird power.
Flickering.
Surges and just weird stuff. Or at night, I'll take the dog out at night or go to pick up my daughter at work. You can almost always see the bright orange glow of a transformer exploding.
I've seen more transformers explode in the last month between these two hurricanes than I've seen my entire life. And I think it's like 3 or 4.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what needs to be done with the infrastructure. I know there's obviously a lot of areas that have underground power, but I'm sure that poses its own problem because if you get flooded, how do they get to work on that?
Well, not only that, if you dig a 5-foot hole here anywhere near the shop, you're getting water in it.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, that said, because I do want to have power all the time and we're spoiled by that, and I can see where people end up going bonkers when you don't have power, but respect all the linemen that,
yes,
everywhere I had been, there is a ton of lineman trucks, and they're not all necessarily from here. They're from other states.
All over the place.
And so kudos to all of them for helping get us the power back as quickly as we did. And I know that quickly, even if you lost power for a week or 10 days, I'm not making it seem like that's not a big deal because it is a big deal, but at least we got the power back on now. So kudos to those guys.
That's right. And one unintended consequence of actually having no power, it got us out of the office a little bit more, and we got to get out in the field and kind of get a little hands-on, which we like to do once in a while. I think it's good for culture. It just kind of shows everyone you're not afraid to do whatever we would expect of our employees. We're not afraid to do.
Yeah, I love that. We will never ask somebody to do something we wouldn't do ourselves. That said, there's nothing we wouldn't do ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which sometimes to a fault.
Yeah.
Well, I think Home Depot agrees. Starting with the fourth quarter of this year, they have made it mandatory that every employee, including remote workers and executives in the corporate office, have to work an 8-hour retail shift at one of their retail locations.
Okay, so just to pack that, you're talking about Home Depot as a whole.
Home Depot as a whole.
And we're not necessarily talking about the employees that are working in the box store. We're talking about
top to the bottom.
We're talking about employees that aren't in the box store. So you got your corporate employees, maybe remote workers. It's going to be mandated that they do an 8-hour shift.
Once a quarter.
Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is, I know the benefits of it, but what do they claim the reason is?
So their goal is to foster empathy, create a better understanding between workers, and develop more cohesiveness between departments.
100%. We've seen that firsthand. Yes. Anytime somebody from D3 or a manufacturing arm because very rarely do any of those guys actually go and see where the glass that they're producing is being installed. Mm-hmm. And so they might say, hey, listen, this is just a little bit short. It's not going to be a big deal. And then they get out there and they say, well, wait a second. There's 10 panels in a row. They're all going floor to ceiling. If this one's a 16 short and that one's a 16 short, they end up seeing why we hold these standards so near and dear to our heart, because we understand the whole premise.
Right.
So I think that's kudos to Home Depot for actually doing that. As far as harboring empathy, I think that's important. But as you and I know, that is a perishable skill. So I think it's important to continuously being involved in every aspect of the business like that. Even when we onboard somebody here at My Shower Door, My Architectural Glass, they end up being pushed around almost into every department to kind of understand what everybody's role is and how every single role within the company plays an important part.
Yeah. Not only what the other thing that I think that might do is it might bring other people who may not have had ambitions to do something different. Maybe they start talking to this person, they realize, oh, that seems like something I could do really well.
Yep.
And, allows you to promote from within.
Yep.
Well, I think it's great. I've never seen a large corporation do something like this, and I think more companies should follow suit.
Yeah, Sam, kudos.
I hate to.
By the way,
yes.
Do you like a question to our viewers and you?
Okay.
If you had to choose between one of the two box stores, do you prefer to shop at Home Depot or Lowe's?
Home Depot.
And why?
It's closer to me.
Okay. That's interesting.
I hate to keep talking about hurricanes, but unfortunately that has been our lives lately. It's just a way of life here in Florida, and more so this year than many recently. Mm. And hurricanes can do strange things to people. Mm. It's funny, like after the storm, they can really bring people together. Like
yep.
The second the storm's over, people are out there. The neighbors are helping each other, get everything put back together.
Yep.
And it could be someone you never talk to. It could be someone you fucking hate.
Yep.
But you're out there helping.
Yep. Feelings are put aside.
That's a great part about what a hurricane can do, but it also can drive people crazy, literally. Earlier this week in North Carolina in Rutherford County, it was reported that FEMA told its workers to evacuate the area as there were concerns of an armed militia threatening its workers.
Taking the power back.
Yeah. So, there'd been rumors floating around of
Rage Against the Machine.
FEMA not wanting to help or allegedly not helping or, kind of hiding things, withholding funds, all sorts of crap agency out there. Yeah, of course. It's bureaucracy.
Yep.
And so one gentleman decided to take the law into his own hands.
Oh.
44-year-old William Jacob Parsons was later arrested and charged with going armed to the terror of the public.
Oh, my God. It's like a real-life A-team.
Yeah. So it appears that after a search of his Facebook profile, he was actually a huge conspiracy theorist, so don't get any ideas.
Yeah.
And he took up arms and decided to stand for what he believes in.
Was he but it says it's an armed militia, so there was more than one person.
Yeah, so allegedly he was riling people up, but he was the only one who really was caught.
Oh.
It's kind of like you got a bunch of buddies and the one that gets caught goes down, but he's not going to be a rat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
I can see where this can happen. I mean, I'm not supporting it. I'm not in favor of that.
Sure.
However, I know how I felt 2 or 3 days before the storm, and then it starts building, and they start gaslighting you with the how the wind is going up and what direction and how much possible storm surge could be, and it brings a lot of anxiety because not only got to worry about ourselves and our families and our close loved ones, but all the people around us.
Right.
And then if you're somebody who loses everything, especially up in North Carolina where that like that Asheville area was eviscerated, I can see where someone could be pushed and triggered very easily to do something,
You ever
like
see Falling Down?
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example. So I could see where that could happen. Again, I do not support it, but I could see where that could happen.
Yeah.
And him being arrested, who knows what his circumstances are? It might be the best thing for him, and now he's got 3 hots and a cot.
That's right.
So.
And a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of conspiracy theories, I decided to put one to the test with Alexa and posted the video. It took a little bit of heat.
I saw that.
The results were quite a shock, though. I had seen some videos going around. Actually, where I first saw it was a friend of mine from high school who actually lived in Asheville, and he posted some videos of people asking their Alexa if Hurricane Helene was made or the product of cloud seeding, which we've talked about a little bit on the past couple episodes. And the answer was just unbelievable. Of course, it's Alexa, so it cited a particular site that it came from, but a website. And it came out and basically said, yes, cloud seeding was used and the storm was man-made with the intent of demolishing homes and driving people from the area so that the government could take over their property. It sounds fucking crazy, doesn't it?
Well, yes, I saw that, and then I saw a bunch of other ones that took it even a step further.
Oh,
that
about the lithium.
Well, yeah, there was BlackRock that paid $90 million for this patch of land that's got more lithium than anywhere else in the world. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and something about like there was some mineral or something to make microchips, and
Yes.
it's the only place in the world that has it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I did a little bit of research from the last time we talked about cloud seeding,
Yeah.
and I do believe that you can loosely manipulate the weather
Right.
on some of that.
I agree.
Do I believe that's what happened here? I do not. I'd be opening to listening. And just a little footnote, the reason why I won't take a hard stance on anything anymore that I see either on the internet or on TV. I know we talked about that Making a Murderer, and then the new one that Candace Owens did, Convicted Murder.
Yep.
I have completely changed my mind. I finished watching it, and I 100% believe that he killed that girl.
Nothing is what it seems.
And the reason why I was able to change my mind is because she unpacked the actual editing and producing of Making a Murderer and how things were kind of moved around to draw people in. And these people were interviewed, the 2 gals that did Making a Murderer, they wanted to become filmmakers, and this was their first project. Mm-hmm. They say to themselves, listen, this isn't a this is a movie. This is art. That's what they were kind of disguising it as. But man, it had me wrapped up, and they had a lot of other people wrapped up so much that they like quit their jobs trying to help raise money to exonerate this guy from this crime. I mean, they were bent about it.
Yeah.
But after watching this, Candace, I implore you to watch it. You have to watch it.
I know.
And so the lesson that I learned from that, aside from being kind of, I almost felt dirty a little bit because I was so convinced that these cops were corrupt and doing this guy bad. And then after watching this, I felt bad because I was motherfucking, even the family of the victim, how they were portraying, I'm like, you're selfish. I can't believe you don't see what I'm seeing. And that just wasn't the case. And what I learned from that is you can, no matter what something appears to be, you can't 100 until you dig a little bit deeper, especially nowadays with the AI and the social media and how things can go viral real quick. That just because it is doesn't mean it's true.
Well, yeah, like I said, I took a lot of heat for that. That doesn't mean I believe that that's the case. I simply posted it because I was blown away by what the answer was, that it was actually real, that all these things that people were posting was actually real. And one of the other things I did, though, because I do know that obviously Alexa takes and it queries the web and it pulls an answer from websites. I found it odd that it pulled that answer. So I know that because it was so new, there wasn't a ton of information out there related to the conspiracy theory that this was a man-made hurricane, right? So it was weird that it pulled from there, yet I then asked some well-documented, I shouldn't say well-documented, but some conspiracy theories that are floating around many, many, many times more the amount of sites.
Like JFK.
I asked JFK, I asked if JFK was killed by the CIA, and it went on to say JFK was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. Then I asked if 9/11 was an inside job, and it went on to give an explanation of what 9/11 was and who the terrorists were. I believe I asked it one other thing. It's escaping me right now. But the point is, I tried to debunk this by saying, oh, well, it's just pulling from wherever. But the fact that it only pulled from that, only pulled the conspiracy on that particular question out of such a small sample size was really weird, because the logical answer is no, it's a hurricane, right? So that was weird, and I just found it odd, but it is what it is. Hurricanes don't only mess with people, though. They can cause the animals to do some weird things, too. I was just finished kind of preparing and sat down. The storm had just started to begin. You know, it had been raining for a couple days before in Hurricane Milton here. And my father-in-law, who happens to live a few houses down from me, calls me up and he says, hey, I got a new pet. You got to come check it out. Well, what are you talking about? So I took my daughter and I walked down the street. It was just a little breezy out, a little rain. And we get down there, and there's like a 6-foot alligator in his backyard.
Oh, my God.
Now, there's a fence behind them, and then there's a...
Was it climbing up the fence?
No, but there has been that before.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's wild how those can do that.
So there's a fence behind them, and it happened to be on the other side of the fence, but never seen anything like that there before. And so, you know, of course, got to take some pictures with it and, you know, mess with it a little bit. But
of course.
It reminded me that during Hurricane Irma, right after Hurricane Irma, I was in my kitchen, and I was looking out my back sliders, and all of a sudden I see these giant, I don't even know what the fuck they were. Like I call them muskrats. I know they're not. They're almost like giant otters running through my backyard. But they were big. I mean, like literally like maybe a baby golden retriever size. Like, they were huge. And so it was another weird thing. But then something funny happened the other morning. I showed you this picture. We'll put it up here. I'm going to bring my daughter to school in the morning. It's still dark outside. And during the hurricane, I have a 30-foot flagpole, and I removed it and took it inside. And there's still a sleeve in the ground that it sits in.
Yep.
So my daughter goes, Dad, come here. You got to check this out. I get over there. There's a toad in the sleeve, and it literally has its arms up like this, and it's just chilling out like it's in a fucking hot tub or something. It was the funniest thing ever. But yeah, man, they do weird things with the storms. We saw a video.
The birds?
The birds.
Yes.
That was insane. So a couple was on a cruise ship that
Oh, my God.
Cruise ship ported out of Tampa. They had to divert and go around the storm. And they were actually a little worried, because when they got diverted, they were sending them back in the port of Miami. And they're like, well, okay, if we can get back to Tampa to get our cars, are they even there? Because you know, they don't know what's going on, right?
Sure.
But anyhow, this video, there's two parts to it. There's hundreds and hundreds of birds and insects just hovering above this cruise ship. And then the birds start dropping out of the sky, just falling like something out of a freaking movie.
Dying.
They're laying there. Well, I don't know if they're even dead because some of them are breathing. They're just laying on the deck of the cruise ship.
Exhausted.
And you can see and hear crew members walking around saying, I've never seen anything like this before. And they were all just concentrated around the ship. And so after doing a little bit of digging on it, what people are thinking is that these birds were trying to flee the area of the storm, and they kind of got disoriented and fatigued, and they didn't know what to do. But to me, I'm like, why are they falling out of the sky? Unless maybe it takes more strength to land than it does to fly. I don't understand why they were just literally dropping like bombs.
Yeah, maybe they just reached absolute fatigue and just boom, done.
It was one of the strangest things.
Back in the day when Michael Jackson would do a concert, he'd give it everything he had that he'd usually pass out at the end of the concert because he was just cooked.
Yeah. No, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. Little kid's pants drop. Never mind. Just kidding. The animals don't just lose their way in a storm, though. Recently, a large exotic cat that is native to Asia and Africa, it's called the caracal. It was found hiding under a homeowner's deck here in America.
Oh.
In Chicago, of all places.
Oh, God.
Apparently, it had been roaming the area surrounding the Hilldale golf course for several days before and finally was found under this homeowner's deck. But it just, you never know what the hell is out there. It's so weird. I hate to spend all this time talking about animals, but it's just weird shit going on. And the one thing that really stood out to me, with all the gun violence in that city, how did nobody pop that thing before it was found?
Hang it on the wall. Did you see a picture of this caracal?
I did. I think that cat should consider itself lucky.
Yeah, it should. For sure. For sure.
I can imagine that spotting that thing, you'd say, there's no way this is real.
Yep.
Well, that in fact was the case at an aquarium in China.
Oh, I saw this.
The Xiaomeisha Ocean World, or however the fuck you say it.
I think you did a pretty good job.
Oh, thank you.
I saw.
In Shenzhen, China, opened to much fanfare on October 1st.
Yep.
The big draw? The ocean's largest creature.
Which is a whale shark.
Whale shark.
Yes.
The only problem is when the people arrived, they found a clearly artificial robot shark playing the part.
That's unbelievable.
So they got there expecting to see a whale shark in captivity, which there are very few of.
I'd be pissed.
I know there's one at the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta.
Yeah, yes.
But there's very few of them. So there was an estimated 100,000 visitors the first week of October at a price of $34 a piece.
And they're advertising, come see the world's largest whale shark.
That's right.
But it's not. It's a prop.
A robot. It's literally a robot. And it wasn't just like a robot. Like,
that's such a short bag. You're telling me that's not going to get out and people are going to be like, fuck this, I'm not going there?
No, you got to see this thing, though. Because it's not like, Jaws was a robot, right? It looked pretty real.
Well, back then it did.
Okay, compared to this, it still looks real. This thing, it looks like a kid's toy where it's a robot, but it's supposed to be a whale shark. It's just fucking weird.
I would be so pissed.
Yeah, well, people were up in arms about it.
What are they doing?
Nothing.
I wouldn't go.
The aquarium defended its cash grab by saying...
You're kidding me.
Yeah, they defended it by saying it would be inhumane to keep a real whale shark in captivity.
In an aquarium. So you're telling me...
In an aquarium.
So that means every single animal in that aquarium is fake?
Well, there you go.
Under that premise, there should be no real animals in there then.
That's a good possibility because, a few weeks ago in China, they found at a zoo, they found these dogs that they painted like pandas and tried to pass them off like pandas.
Come on. I wouldn't.
So that's not out of the realm of possibility at all.
I wouldn't be trusting China with any of the animals. Look what they did with the bats.
Bat soup. While whale sharks aren't dangerous to humans, the next subject is. We talked a bit in the past about Shein and how they have a large amount of toxic chemicals found in their clothing. Well, it turns out a college student in the UK received something much more dangerous. 18-year-old Sophia Alonso Mossinger excitedly opened a package from the company to find what she thought was a toy sitting on top of her clothing until it moved.
What was it?
Was a live venomous scorpion.
Get the fuck out of here.
It was.
Could you imagine opening a box for a pair of underwear or something you ordered or gym shorts and there's a fucking scorpion in there? No. Like, how does that even happen? How does that happen?
That would be a good question for China.
That's unbelievable.
So the thing was alive. Now, it's interesting because I know when the shipping containers come over from China and there are things in them, I know they usually spray them with a ton of pesticides because people, a lot of times they initially have to go in there with masks and things on. So I know this went through the mail, but it's just kind of, you would think those warehouses maybe would have some sort of insect control. But yeah, so she opened this package and here's a live deadly scorpion.
Have you ever opened something and there was something in there that you weren't expecting that just scared the shit out of you?
I get a bill from the IRS once.
That would be scary.
Well, after the initial shock wore off, she was able to get the insect into a Tupperware container and alert authorities. But man, that's just fucking crazy.
That thing would have been dead.
Speaking of things we talked about, last week I raised the question of the dangers of AI in our children's learning. And the parents of a Hingham, Mass. High school student are...
Massachusetts again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where everything happens.
Let's go.
So the parents of this high school student, are suing the school over their son's punishment for using AI to help write a paper for his AP history class about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Upon discovering that he and another student used AI to assist in the project, the student's teacher gave them both a 0, which thus dropped the student's overall grade to a C and dropped his GPA. So the parents are now suing the school district and the school for the punishments he received because he did get the 0s, but he was also barred from entering the National Honor Society. Now, this student had goals of attending Stanford, and it was just getting to the time where they do something with Ivy League schools, and they feel that really hindered his ability to get in there. So they actually have filed suit, and the parents allege that there was no policy regarding the use of AI, and these actions obviously damaged his goal of attending Stanford. The school now does have a policy addendum related to the use of AI. However, that addendum went into their handbook after the event in question.
Of course it did. So let me ask you a question. As a teacher, if you were an educator and you did not tell your students you're not allowed to use AI to do your homework or put this paper together, should that student be punished for using AI if no one said he wasn't allowed to use it?
I would say this. If you're playing within the rules, you shouldn't be punished.
Especially in Massachusetts. I mean, come on, look at our sports teams. They're known for that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, if you're playing within the rules, whether you...
Well, there was
ethical,
no rule.
But that's what I'm saying. You're playing within the rules.
Yeah.
So whether it's ethical or whatever you have, those are the rules. And that's it.
I would be interested to see how that lawsuit turns out. How much did it say how much you're suing for?
It didn't. It's funny you brought up the Massachusetts sports teams because I saw another little snippet about this this women's soccer team that just started in Boston. It was like the BOS Nation Football Club, I think they were called. And they were asked to take down these ads because they were the ads were targeted around all the sports teams in the city were all males. So the kind of the catchphrase was too many balls. So like I saw they showed like they showed like one of the Celtics players and it said balls of steel, and then it was like balls something else, like or it was like hockey and it was like no balls, and then it was like too many balls.
That's funny. Well,
Yeah.
marketing. Sex sells.
Yeah. Well, another story we recently talked about was a company named Kalshi. You remember this story?
Yes. This was the betting or something on the
Yeah,
politics.
they had filed suit in New York to allow betting on U.S. elections.
That's right.
At the time, they were awaiting a ruling.
Yep.
And I think it was that Thursday was supposed to come out. And it turns out not only did a U.S. appeals court rule in favor of Kalshi, they're now taking bets on the presidential election. And they actually have billboards all over New York City showing the odds, and the real-time bets as they happen are popping up on these video boards.
Is this only in New York?
This is only in New York.
Yeah, I saw one of those digital billboards. It's got like a QR code on it, and then it shows Trump, Harris, and it's like going to Vegas. And a little footnote, I know how that would change. I was in Vegas one time for a Patriots Super Bowl, and I went to go bet on the Patriots. But before I bet, in line in front of me was a whale bettor. He was like 4 or 5 guys ahead of me, and he must have been betting a huge amount, because as soon as he had made his bet, it moved the line. It wasn't a lot, but I swear, it moved the line. And I'm interested to see how, if at all, this would affect the election. I don't know if it'd be good, bad, or indifferent, but...
Well, yeah, because, you can have... There's all sorts of nefarious things that can happen with this, like we talked about before. But just take the average Joe, and maybe he's kind of on the fence, maybe not even going to vote.
Doesn't even care.
Doesn't care. I've heard plenty of people, you ask them who they're going to vote for, and like, neither one of them. You know. So now take that, and let's say a couple of buddies get together, and we're gonna bet on the underdog here. We know it's real close, and then we're all going to go and vote for the underdog. Now, 4 or 5 guys isn't going to sway the election, but 400 or 500 groups of 4 or 5 guys is going to do a little damage.
It could.
So it's kind of weird. Now, I did see a positive spin on that, I guess you could call it. And that would be that because this is legalized gambling, it is regulated, which means that any allegations, no matter how stupid or whatever, any allegations of fraud would have to be investigated.
Oh, so if every year they claim cheating.
Yeah, well, I mean, without going down a rabbit hole here, look at last time. Yeah, I think it was in Pennsylvania, and there were people observing the polls, and then all of a sudden they put up all these boards, and no one could watch. That right there would trigger an investigation instead of just, oh, sorry.
Because there's money on the line now.
Right.
Not that there wasn't money before, but betting money.
Right.
Yeah. Huh.
Yep.
So that could be a positive. For more transparency.
Yeah.
Depending on who's in charge of the investigation.
Well, that's always the case. But if you want to see those boards...
Are you going to be betting on the election?
I will not. I will be casting a vote. I won't be betting, though.
Yeah.
Especially because it's illegal.
Oh, that's right. You're not in New York.
But if you want to see any of those billboards or you want to see the current odds, you can find them all over social media.
Yep.
In other social media news, a TikTok star with almost $4 million, $4 million followers.
I was going to say, I'd like to have 4 million followers.
He may have more than $4 million with that amount of followers. Was just arrested for murder.
Oh. I like these murder mysteries.
Yeah, Mr. Prada, as he is called, allegedly killed a therapist via blunt force trauma and hid his body in a comforter and ditched it in Louisiana. Now, there's a lot of weird unknowns surrounding this whole story. It is known that the suspect was not a patient of the victim. That is a known for sure. But what's weird about it is that the victim was seen at the suspect's home willingly, wearing the same clothes in which he was found dead. There's a lot of sketchy things here, but again, they're not sure how the two knew each other, but there are some things floating around that perhaps the doctor may have sexually abused the suspect or someone he knew, which wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. This doctor was formerly a Catholic priest, and no, that's not what I'm saying, but was formerly a Catholic priest, and he had been accused of misconduct by another boy before. So I say, if that's the case, he got everything he deserves and more.
I couldn't agree more, especially watching the Menendez documentary. And again, after watching documentaries and being bamboozled once with that Stephen Avery, I'm open-minded about these things. However, when it comes to sexually abusing children, I have zero empathy or sympathy for individuals getting killed. And I think there's something wrong upstairs with anybody that does that. And I don't think it can be fixed.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. And so if that was the case, I'm not defending Mr. Prada, but if that was the case, I think the punishment fits the crime.
Absolutely.
And then some.
Absolutely. Think of all the children that, if that were the case, all the potential victims that were protected.
Of course. And God knows how many other ones there were.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's willing to go down that road, it's not just usually one.
No.
And then, okay, there's two, but is there any? Well, we don't know.
It's a sickness, like you said.
Yep.
Well, while we're on the subject of social media stars, I know this is near and dear to your heart. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Lieutenant Dan.
Yes, Lieutenant Dan. What's AKA Lieutenant Dan? What's his real name?
Joseph Malinowski.
I told you about this guy. It was after Milton, but it was it was after Helene, but it was before Milton.
It was the day before Milton.
Yeah, I had started seeing him a couple days before on TikTok, but I didn't bring it up. But then I realized that the amount of content that was being put out there was ramping up like a lot. It was every third post on my feed as I'm scrolling through. The algorithm was just feeding it to me. And he was founded, it all started because a local influencer in Tampa named Tampa Terrence lived somewhere near in a high-rise where Lieutenant Dan's, a.k.a. Lieutenant Dan's boat was. And after Milton, he had been walking home from school somewhere in Tampa and offered to help him. And it all started, and then, this guy jumped out and he's got an amputee.
Yeah, he's an Army veteran with an amputated leg.
Yes, but I don't think the amputated leg was because of anything in the military, I think he said. So he's playing the character of Lieutenant Dan. He was given that name because of obvious Forrest Gump. So Tampa Terrence did a TikTok, and then it just really started to snowball. And then he was asking him, what are you going to do during Milton? He's like, I'm staying here. I don't care if the water goes up. Safest place when there's water is in a boat. The water goes up, the boat goes up. And it just really started to catch fire. I remember
because you told me about it, that the day you told me about it, that evening, I sent you a video, and it was Jim Cantori in Tampa, and he was talking to Lieutenant Dan, but he had no clue who he was, and he's like, this guy is going to stay out on his boat. And
look how fast that spiraled out of,
But the best part was he goes, so, storm's going to come out here. Don't you think it's a bit dangerous? No, I'll be just fine, whatever. And then he ends the interview with, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and then it ended up garnering so much attention that Aiden Ross, and if you don't know who Aiden Ross is, he's a live streamer, probably the most popular live streamer out there, offered him a Kick deal, which is a streaming platform service, along with a new boat, I believe like $100,000 boat.
It's a $100,000 boat and a $100,000 Kick deal.
Which then all the controversy started, which almost ramped it up even more, which almost begs the question as if it was done on purpose. But they pulled the Kick deal from this guy because of all the allegations of his criminal history in the past.
Yeah.
And then some of that was debunked, but he did have a pretty lengthy kind of rap sheet, if you will. So I think he's getting the boat. He doesn't have a Kick deal.
He is getting the boat. They pulled the Kick deal.
But they gave the Kick deal to that Tampa Terrence.
That's right.
Who founded him. And so there's some infighting there. It's
a soap opera.
It's a soap opera made for social media.
Which those allegations, man, like the first set, which has been debunked, There was a gentleman who had the same name but a different middle initial, had been convicted of kidnapping a 10-year-old boy and doing things,
Yes, so
probably
then
whatever.
people are coming out calling this guy a pedophile, which, as you know, once you put something like that out of there, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
No, we get Mr. Prada over here.
Yes, take care of you.
Yeah, so that was the first one, but then it turned out that wasn't him. However, there were several other things, including 6 months in jail for punching a cop, and then another thing with a meth head, where he tried to light a meth head woman on fire.
Yeah, and supposedly she was doing something to him, and it wasn't.
Yeah. It just seems like that you're a product of the company you keep.
Absolutely. But this has been an interesting week to be back. I'm happy to be back. We're happy to be on camera.
Yep.
And
Well, on that note, I'm going to get out of here and sharpen my skills. I don't have a criminal record, but rumor has it there is a $100,000 kick deal up for grabs. So
we would love a kick deal. We'd love any deal that has to do with promoting Hard Hat Highlights. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would love for you to do so. Subscribe, comment, like, share. And we appreciate you joining us for episode
15.
So stay tuned for our next episode.